We are about to embark on an immersive journey through the corridors of our minds. Stand by as we prepare for departure.
Welcome aboard, everyone, to the Productivity with Peace of Mind podcast adventure. Our journey will begin in just a moment. Inhale deeply and exhale. Our voyage takes us on a captivating tour, diving deep into the intricate layers of our thoughts and imagination. Brace yourselves for the complexities of our evolution. For a safe and enjoyable journey, stay seated, secure your helmet and protective goggles, and keep hands, feet, and legs inside while the ride is moving. Now relax and enjoy.
What if I told you there's a way to still fit in your big dreams and big goals, even when you feel like you have a lot on your plate? Being a multi-passionate and having different projects in our lives can actually make us better and we can grow and learn from them. That is what we dive into and uncover how to do with our very special guest today, Paresa. Without further ado, let's go to the conversation. Paresa is a mother based in Parker, Colorado, with a passion for positively impacting her community. Founder of Noblier Media, a digital marketing agency helping local businesses grow their own brands. She recently launched the Shield Our Schools Foundation, a nonprofit dedicated to enhancing school security without political affiliation. Juggles her role as a CEO and a parent, demonstrating that women can manage both family and impactful careers. Paresa's mission is to show that parenting doesn't have to limit our ability to achieve success. Well, welcome, Paresa. It's so great to have you here today.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
You manage to juggle parenting, running two impactful organizations. How do you balance these roles and still achieve great things? Like writing a book, for example. I mean, that's so many things all at once. How do you do it?
Good question. I feel like there's so often we get blinded by the chaos, especially as parents. Everything's going so fast. You're constantly moving and it's difficult, right? It becomes overwhelming a lot of the time. And ultimately, I think the short answer to that is being present. But I feel many people try to be present, but we don't actually sink into it and rest into it. Um, so it's the tactics to be present. So for me, a lot of it comes down to meditation. I feel like I would be a crazy lady if I didn't take just even 5 minutes in the mornings to declutter my brain and just sit in silence. Oftentimes that meditation is interrupted by like a screaming child or, a phone call from my team, but it is that intention to sit down. And one thing that I've heard before is the more chaos that is going on and the busier you feel, the more you need to meditate and take a break, because that's when, we can control our internal mindset and our internal thoughts, but it is heavily influenced by what's going on around us. So when there's kids screaming and running and demanding your attention, but then there's also deadlines that you have to hit and clients that you're serving, team that you're serving, it's like you have to be able to separate the two and not let the external kind of seep into the internal. The internal has to stay almost, it has to stay pure, and that comes through intention. Because if we were to just let ourselves go, like just live through the chaos without ever intending to protect our mind, protect our thoughts, protect our energy, it's going to affect you and you're going to become overwhelmed. You're going to become burnt out. It truly takes intention. And I think that's something that I try to teach my team regularly is it doesn't just come, like the calm and the balance, it doesn't just happen by luck. It comes by taking a deep breath, maybe doing breath work. We were just talking about breath work before we started. It comes through, again, meditation, prayer. Anytime I feel overwhelmed, I'm praying. Like it's a very the mind, body, spirit thing very much translates and corresponds with how much balance and harmony you feel in your life.
A lot of people might think, oh, I can't do this thing over here, or I can't take on this dream or this project that I've, been thinking about and I really want to do, but I can't do it because I am a parent or I already have a career, I already have another business or whatever the, excuse might be. But it sounds like from what you're saying, it's not about how much is already on your plate. It sounds like it's more about how well are we taking care of ourselves? So you've mentioned productivity is also a form of self-care. How does setting and achieving our goals then boost our confidence and then kind of start to build that momentum so that we just almost just keep going without as much effort as we thought it took?
I love that. And how do we kind of get into the momentum of it? Ultimately, it comes down to the little wins add up to the big wins. And when we get those little wins, it's a self confidence booster. I think there's so much in our lives that are related to the amount of confidence that you feel. And the thing about it is, you don't have it at first. You don't have the
Yeah.
confidence at first. Like when I first was thinking about leaving corporate America, I was so scared. I was like, how am I even going to be successful? Am I even going to get clients? Who's going to want to work with me? Um,
Yep.
am I going to end up coming back to my job? But that fear, it kept me there longer than I wanted to be there. But ultimately, it was okay, well, let's just open the LLC and then let's just take the next step. And when you take that
Yeah.
next step and it works, and then the following step becomes clear to you, that's kind of the how the path is built and paved. That's how the path is paved. And it really does come down to you have to move and do the thing before the confidence comes to you. You gain the confidence as you go. And when we talk about self-care, I think so much of self-care can come through building your confidence. Like we talk a lot about self-care and let's take a break, maybe go to the spa, get our nails done. And I'm so here for that. I would love to, but I think there's a way deeper level to it that comes with happiness. Like what will give you the confidence to go after what will make you feel happy and fulfilled. And you only get
Yeah.
that as you move. You're not going to get there when you stay stagnant and you just have this dream that you want and you think about, and it's just like an itching desire, burning desire. You get it by taking the next steps, the right next steps to actually reach it. And then you realize, oh, I can do this. Oh, I am kind of smart. I do have a skill that I can share with the world. And that ultimately helps us step into our highest self, in my opinion. And it kind of is like packing a snowball and throwing it down the hill. If you start taking the steps and you're on the right path. I think that's another big thing is so many times we start moving towards something and we find roadblock after roadblock after roadblock. And it's not to say that that should stop you, because there's always going to be roadblocks in everything that we do in life. But when you really are on a track where you feel like you're in flow with what you are put here to do, the next steps become clear to you as you move, and the universe kind of moves and shifts things around to open doors for you or put people into your life to help you get to that point. And I think ultimately, again, going back to the self-care piece of this, when you can be on that path to living for something and doing something that truly speaks to your heart and to your soul, that's self-care, in my opinion. And it's, when you look at it from a parenting perspective, um it could even just be as simple as having kids and raising them right. But for me, I've always wanted to work, like I've always wanted to have something for myself, and I've always
Yeah.
wanted a family. And that's hard to do both together, but it's absolutely doable. And that was one of the reasons that I was like, should I even start this? Because it's going to take a lot of time. It's going to demand a lot of time. But it's like when you want it and it's a piece of your, if it's a part of your journey, you find a way to do it. So I wake up early. I start working at like 5:30 till 8 a.m. in the mornings, especially during the summer when the kids are out of school. And then I have help for a couple hours in the afternoon, and I just make it work like I'm juggling so that I can be present at work in those few hours and then be present with my kids. And then, have the little wins at work, have the little wins with my family. And that ultimately is kind of what's helped me find the confidence, take care of my own mindset as in being a business owner.
When you decide this path that you're going to take, it's really important to have clarity, right? Because, like you're talking about, is that the journey you really want? Are those roadblocks worth it for you? Because, as you said, every path has roadblocks. So, being really clear on that right path. And then you're talking about the first few steps, which I think are really important because it starts the momentum, and then you can, you're like, oh, okay, it builds a confidence and I'm going to keep going. But then how do we make sure that we stay focused and we stay on the path, keep our eye on that end goal, on our why that we've decided and we've gotten clear on? Like, how do we keep going, especially when we have those external things coming up, such as, you know, difficulties with parenting or anything else outside of us going on?
Yeah. I think the clarity factor is so important. I don't know if you've heard the analogy that if there was an airplane that was taking off from, say, Denver, because we're here in Denver, and it was destined to go to Delaware. If the nose of the airplane is off just like 2 or 3 degrees and it goes from Denver to quote unquote Delaware, it's not going to land in Delaware because it's off from the get go. It's going to probably land in New York or somewhere hundreds of
Yeah.
miles away. And that's very accurate because it's however we start at the beginning and however we build, it's going to land us somewhere. So when we start, I mean, I'm sure you've heard it many times. It's starting with the end in mind, but
Hmm.
oftentimes it's like you don't even know what you can accomplish. So for me, I mean, I can only speak to what I've kind of gone through with this. I have clarity on milestones. Like by this date, I want to achieve this goal. And then
Hmm.
like it's a 3 or 5 year, 10-year goal. And
Yep.
I regularly, like, I'll go back to meditation because it's such a big part of this, like mindset and having that calm, like almost like a consistent stream of thought toward something or about something. It is a game changer. And I remember when I first started playing volleyball back in high school, or really it was my volleyball coach in high school. They told me visualize before you do it. Visualize
Hmm.
before you do it. And yes, that applied to volleyball, but it applies to everything in life. And I don't know if you've heard of Bob Proctor. He passed away a few years ago, but he
Yeah.
is huge on visualization. And I follow all of his stuff so closely and have incorporated a lot of his teachings into how I'm building my business and the nonprofit and parenting and what we want for our personal lives and things like that. And ultimately, I will recommend one YouTube guided meditation. It's called, just search Bob Proctor Abundance Meditation. And it's like a 25-minute um, guided meditation where you're getting into a relaxed state. And once you're there, you're visualizing and putting images in your mind of what you want. And this has changed my whole life because I have been doing this for 5 years. I always go back to that same meditation. My mentor, Tony Grabmeyer, showed me it. And it's interesting to see how the things that I would visualize then are happening right now. And the things that I prayed for then are happening now. And it's not to say it just happened because I thought about it. It happened because I took action, but I was also pairing that with the mind, body, spirit aspect of this. And, you know, some,
Yes.
some may just work hard, go, 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 pedal to the metal, and they won't get exactly where they want to go. And I think that's because the clarity piece isn't there. When you, again, are intentional, I think that's the biggest thing, is being intentional and carving out time to have that, um just peace and quiet for yourself, so that you can really think about what you want. And the first time you sit down, you probably aren't going to even know where you want to go, but something will come up in your mind. And the more you do it, the more clear that picture gets in your mind of where you're going.
Yeah.
And if you don't know, if you don't have that picture, it's going to be very hard to get there. If you don't have the end goal in mind, it's going to be very hard to get there. And then I'll go to the second piece of it, where once you know where you're going, it's working backwards to set the milestones and the goals that will get you there. And then it's going even deeper, and then looking at what needs to happen every month, every week, every day to get there. And then it just becomes a roadmap and a plan. And all you have to do is just act on it. So it's just, when you take that time to really sit down, think about it, get crystal clear, do your research, do your due diligence. If there's something along that path that you don't know how to do, don't worry about it. Don't let that stop you, because you're going to figure it out as you go. Like, do you think that when Apple was created, for example, they thought at the beginning, that Steve Jobs thought about how the iPhone would be introduced, be developed, and come out? Probably not. Like, it was
Right.
iterations, right? They come
Yes.
out with the first thing, and then they make like 5 different iterations, and then they come out with the next thing, and it evolves. And that's us, not only as human beings, it's iterations of ourselves and how we grow and welcome that, those adjustments into our lives. But then it's also whatever we're working on, whether it be parenting or working on our jobs, working on our businesses. It's what did we do yesterday that worked? What didn't work? And then how do we change that for today to make it better? And how do we change it for today? It's being fluid and, you know, doing what you need to do to evolve with the time, so that your end goal ultimately is attainable, even with everything around you constantly in flux, constantly changing. So again, like, I think if I could say one thing, it's be intentional about where your thoughts are, how you're thinking about what you can accomplish, and leaning on the side of courage rather than fear, because it's easier to slip into fear and not pursue things and do things that you're supposed to do.
I love that you used the airplane analogy, because I teach my teams this all the time. Like, where do you want your airplane to go? Because I mean, it's true. Like, if we don't plan, we absolutely will not get there, right? And if we do plan, sometimes things change and evolve, and we may get somewhere even better or different, or something more aligned with what we want as we grow. But, when you're talking about working backwards and, the reverse engineering part of that, and you mentioned, if we don't know how to do a part of it, or if there's something we don't know, like if you look ahead and you see, oh, I have to do this part, but I don't know how to do that, and that feels a little bit scary, I will actually block time to research it. Like, I will make that part of my plan. Like, this is a step I don't know how to do. So when I've built in that time to learn, to discover, to make mistakes, I then don't feel behind. So I love that you called that part out of, like, yeah, if there's a part that you don't know, don't worry about it. I loved that. That was so perfect.
Right? Gosh, I can appreciate that, because there's just so much that I didn't know leading into everything that
Yeah.
like starting this nonprofit. Wow. Like, there is so much that I'm learning. And as so the nonprofit thing was on my heart for a long time, and I didn't do it because I'm like, it's not the right time. I'm already so busy. XYZ. But ultimately, I decided to do it, even though I had no idea how or where to start. And as I started taking the steps, I got a mentor, and I got a team to help me. I found friends that wanted to be a part of it and join the board and help move it forward. And it's just, you don't need to know how. You really don't. You need to have the vision as a leader and the empathy and the compassion to actually make it work, and the hustle mindset, you know, like you got to work hard on
Yeah.
it too,
Yeah.
but it's you don't need to know it. So if there's a message I could give to anyone listening, if there's something that you've been wanting to do and you don't know how to do it, stop letting that stop you. I mean, just take the first step and start exploring it, and the next steps will become clear. And if you run into a ton of roadblocks, it all comes down to the desire and the pull that you have to stay on it. But if it's something that you are meant to do, you will notice things starting to work out for you to do it. You will notice things moving in your life for you to continue on that path. But you never know unless you start. You don't need to know how.
Right. Productivity with peace of mind is moving those meaningful projects forward. And your nonprofit, the Shields Our Schools Foundation, I mean, that's incredible. What inspired
Yeah.
you to start that? And what was kind of the fuel to get that started?
You know, it's such a heavy topic because it's ultimately to help mitigate the impact of school shootings, right? And that's I have two little ones that are going into the school system. And for me, it's, I think, a piece of the reason is out of fear, right? As a mother and as a parent of
Yeah.
why is this a thing? How are we able to even impact it rather than just worry about it? Like, how can we be a
Yeah.
solution rather than just worry? But it really came into play when the school shooting in Uvalde, Texas happened. And ultimately, so here's the story. My husband and I went out on a date, and it wasn't a very romantic date. I'll just like tell you that right now, because we were sitting there eating, having a nice time. And on the TVs, they were talking about what had just happened. And instead of talking about like, well, how did this happen? How did this guy even get in? How, the actual important things, right? I'm not to say the rest isn't
Yeah.
important, but it's instead of talking about actually what happened, it was all very
Yeah.
politicized. The right side says this, the left side says that. And it was
Oh,
so
wow.
divisive on a topic that we should all be coming together on. These are our kids, like,
Right.
right? These
Ugh.
are our children. And so we started looking it up at dinner. How did he get in? And the story was that one of the teachers was bringing food in from her car, so she left the door open. She brought the food in, but she saw the shooter coming, and she closed the door. She closed it, and the
Mm.
door was supposed to lock, but the door didn't lock. The lock was it malfunctioned, and that's how the shooter got into the school. And then
Oh,
you look at Nashville. There was a shooting at the Covenant in Nashville, and the shooter came through the glass windows. So they thought they shot through the glass windows and just walked right in. So it's like updating locks on external and
okay.
internal um, doors of the school, adding bullet resistant window film. Those things could have completely changed what happened. And
Yeah.
there is
Wow.
federal funding for this, for enhancing school security, but the grant writing process is so complex that not like schools aren't taking full advantage of what they can do. So our whole goal with Shield Our Schools is to streamline that process, almost not like privatize it, but make it more accessible. So we offer a Shield grant through bringing the community together, having events, fundraisers, things like that. And we invest in schools. So they apply, they tell us kind of what's the lay of the land. It's all confidential for safety reasons. And we go out and either fundraise, or if we have the money, then we help source the vendor, whatever vendor they want, because we don't have any affiliations with any specific vendors. It's who does the best work. But we
Mhm.
essentially help them get the quotes, run the coordination of the installation, and then pay for it. So right now we're working with our first school in Colorado Springs, which is amazing. And we're working with their principal, their school administrator. We are very blessed to have the lieutenant of Douglas County Sheriff's Office on our board. So
Mm.
her and our VP of the board went down there with a couple vendors, walked the perimeter of the school, went through everything, did a huge assessment, And now we're looking at how we can help invest in external, internal safety procedures. So ultimately, how this came about is really just, it was on my heart. It was one of those things that ever since that night on that date, which again was not very romantic because it turned very, heavy, but that was the night that we were like, okay, let's what is the solution here? And we ended up just buying the domain at dinner. We registered the nonprofit at dinner on the Secretary of State website, I think it was. And then it just kind of sat there. And it was,
Yeah.
we were like, we have it. We started it for whenever we decide to actually take action on it.
Yeah.
Just kind of sat there idly, but we took the first step at least.
Yes.
And then I actually went to an event. One of my best friends is on the board for an amazing nonprofit called Hope House. And she had an event at her house where I got to meet the founder of Hope House, Lisa Stevens. And her and I connected on such a deep level of when there is a mission on your heart, do you just let it sit there or do you follow it? And, I won't forget what she said. She's like, just start. And if it's not meant to be, it's not going to happen. But we'll never know if you don't start. And so we started and I went after it. You have to have a board to actually establish. And so I went out and found people and somehow, some way we got the lieutenant of Douglas County Sheriff on our board, which is just, it's awesome because she brings so much expertise. We have some amazing, we have a parent who had their child in a situation like this. We have just different people who are adding their insights and contributions in ways that I wouldn't even think about because I'm just a mom that wants to be a part of the solution and not be freaked out every day about it. So ultimately it was on my heart for a while. We took action and just started it. And then once it kind of became more prevalent and the timing aligned, we hit the ground running. And now we are ultimately, it's year one. And we had a launch party in February of this year. And we raised over 11 grand somehow, just from our networks coming together on this issue. And then now we're working on our gala coming up on November 9th, which you should absolutely come to that. And it's just, it's been a very fulfilling journey to just even be a part of any type of change. Even if we help one school, that is a win in my book. So yeah, I'm very excited.
Okay, well, that's beautiful story. And I personally am moved by that. And can I just also say how I love that you guys at dinner on your dinner date took action. Like that is like you are my people. And and you trusted the process and you found your way there. And not only that, but you're getting to the root cause. Like I would have never thought to look at like door latches or windows, and you're getting all the way down there, right? It's not like, I mean, I remember in school, like, yeah, there's all the precautions and the trainings and they teach us what to do and all of that, but that's even reactionary. Like getting back to like, how do we actually prevent this from happening in the first place?
Yeah, right. There was actually an attempted school shooting recently in Wisconsin, and their community came together and the school took the initiative and they did the bullet resistant window films. They had their perimeter on lock, no pun intended, and the shooter couldn't get in to the school. Nobody was hurt except for the shooter. So that's what we're after. Like that's just proof of concept that this makes a difference. And yes, there will always be the conversation of guns, but we are so far removed from that because my goal is to bring people together from both sides, whether you're pro-gun or anti-gun or anywhere in between the spectrum. It's ultimately the thing about American government is that every 4 to 8 years we're rotating. So for something as big as that, like a Second Amendment, right? Like it's going to go back and forth, even if there is change. And obviously, there is so much tug of war. There's been tug of war
Yeah.
since, gosh, as long as I can remember. So it's like, okay, while you guys continue to figure that piece out, like keep figuring it out. But what can we do on a very foundational level to at least help this situation? And that's what our goal is. So, but I appreciate you saying that. And I think you said something about trusting the process. And when the purpose is big enough, you find a way to trust the process, when it's outside of yourself. I remember I was interviewing a brilliant mind, and he said, you can only do things that are bigger than yourself when you believe in something bigger than yourself.
Hmm.
And when you have that greater, you know, pull towards something, it really makes a difference.
Right. Yeah. Because the reason you're doing it weighs heavier than the challenges that come with it along the way, or the work or the grind or whatever you have to do to get there is lighter on the scale than the reward you'll have because of what it means to you.
Exactly. Yeah. Nailed it. That's exactly right. So yeah, our goal is to hopefully grow. We're starting in Colorado, and our goal is to help schools really across the country. And we're dialing in on what that looks like. And we don't know how, right? But it's a goal, and we're doing it. And it's like ultimately it's taking what is the site assessment here and maybe sharing that with local law enforcement and gosh, I don't know, in California or, wherever. And then they help do the site visit, and they help kind of be our liaison to support that school. And ultimately it's making sure that the money goes to the school, the money is used for that, and so on and so forth. So it is it's a big endeavor, but it's something that we're just taking the next best step and doing the next right thing and continuing forward. And we'll see how many schools we can help along the way.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, that's incredible.
Thanks.
And it just seems like everything that you do, you have this approach to productivity and to mindset that very much aligns closely with how you operate in all of these different projects. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you've applied like the power of your beliefs and also having that abundance mindset so that you're not going in, thinking about what's going to go wrong, you're thinking about that why and how do those, beliefs and mindsets help that process?
Oh gosh, that's so important. And I'm so glad you asked this question because the world is harsh, and anything we do in life is going to be hard. Even the easy things will have hard parts, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yes,
a
yes.
matter of like when I look at a big endeavor like starting a business or starting a nonprofit or having kids, oh my God, that's probably the biggest, hardest thing I've ever done. But it's a matter of it's faith. Honestly, for me, it's having faith. And anytime that I feel like something's not going to work out, or I start worrying about it and I get anxious about it, or and that abundance mindset kind of dwindles or anything like that, I start praying, quite honestly. For anybody, it doesn't have to be praying to God. It could be just visualizing or throwing it out to the universe, but I toss it to something bigger than myself. I think that's the
Yes.
how for me is I can control the controllables, and the rest is we're gonna see how it goes. I'm gonna ride the wave. We're gonna see where we land. But quite frankly, over the last 10 years, I have consumed so much personal development content from Les Brown, Bob Proctor, Tony Robbins, Mel Robbins.
Yep.
Gosh, there's been so many books like that, and just YouTube videos, podcasts, things that I'm just constantly consuming. And it probably took about 4 years for me to truly see the shift in my mindset.
Mm.
But it came. And that's when I started really taking off, is when that shift came. Because unless you're raised with it, right, you're falling into your own human tendencies, and it's easier to be negative than it is to be positive. It's a very, I call it the invisible line. It's easier to fall into a scarcity mindset than it is to have an abundance mindset. It's easier to fall into competition mindset versus collaborative. It's easier to fall into, I don't know, jealousy than it is to being happy for somebody. It's honestly, again, it goes back to intention. And it's that very fine, invisible line where when you're able to subconsciously make that leap over that line, that's when everything starts to shift for you, because your mindset becomes bulletproof. And it's like, yes, you're going to have hard days. Yes, you're going to get down because it just happens. It's inevitable. You'll have doubt, but then you can recognize that you're having doubt. You can recognize when, because your awareness is heightened, so you can see when you start falling into the negative side of the line. But when you can catch it and you're like, oh, stop. Don't think of like that. Don't think like that. Go take a walk, or go like do something to get a small win. Go like work out, or just move your body in a different direction, and your mind follows typically. So it is, again, we fully control our thoughts, and we're always going to slip and live on both sides of the line. But it's just, how much time are you spending on the positive side of the line versus the negative side of the line? Like, I love the one about consuming versus creating. And it's essentially when you're able to live on the side of creation, where you're the one writing the articles instead of reading the articles, or you're filming something cool on your phone because you're experiencing life, or you're sitting at home and watching Netflix. It's like, if you're consuming more than you create, you're filling a short-term need of just chilling out, right? But you're not filling your cup on a long-term basis. So I always say 80-20 rule applies to the invisible line. Live 80% of your time, 80% of your life, as much as you can, on the positive side of the line. And that, again, comes with intention, like tracking your thoughts. If you're getting into a negative spiraling thought process about whatever topic, it's a matter of looking at, okay, stop, snap out of it, go meditate, go exercise, go get a small win, and come back and reset. So that's been a big piece for me, is heightening my own awareness through personal development, listening to the right people, consuming the right content, so that I can be inspired to go create.
Yeah. It's almost being like your own life manager, right? Like you have to like be the manager of your own mind. And I always tell my like the leaders in my company, if you cannot manage your own mind and you cannot manage yourself as a human, because you have to almost like separate yourself and then be your own manager, then you can't manage your team. So it all starts with that. It's almost like being your own babysitter.
Yes,
Like, oh,
it
I
is.
crossed over. Go back, go back. like
Absolutely.
coaching yourself, right?
You are coaching yourself, and only you know what you're thinking. Only you can be real with yourself like that, right? Like, you can get a business coach, you can get a mentor, but nobody can help you stay on the right side of the line. And that's what's going to make all the difference in your life, is when you can have a good attitude, have a good mindset, have a good approach, because it's your energy. It radiates off of you. So then when you're in the room with people, they feel it, and then they want to work with you, or they want to help you. And it's all connected. It's all connected.
Yeah. Well, and I'm also hearing that it might take some patience,
Yeah.
some grace, because you mentioned that we're always going to slip. And I think that, like, literally when you said, like, I'm a perfectionist. So when you said that, I was like, oh, thank you. Because, right, like, it's that reminder. Like, I mean, my therapist tells me regularly, like, remember your, like, oh, yeah. Okay.
It's true. Yeah, it is. And it's like, I don't know. It's easier said than done, right? Because I get so hard on myself too.
Yeah.
But it really is part of the journey. It takes time. I remember one of our clients had the best quote. You can't take the cookies out of the oven until that 20-minute mark. Like if you try to take the cookies out of the oven before they're done, they're not going to be fully baked. You got to let
I
yourself
feel
fully bake.
yeah.
Yeah, it applies.
That is the best analogy ever.
Yeah. That's one from, his name's Matthew Shoebrook. He's amazing. But that one stuck with me. It's like I feel like we're in a very results oriented society.
Yeah.
We want things right now,
Right.
especially with our phones and technology. It's like you have everything on demand. Amazon Prime,
Yeah.
order it, it's here in 2 days. It's affecting how we view our own results. But even if it takes
Mm.
5 years, I've been in business for 5 years. Usually businesses take off around year two, right? Like I've been here for 5 years and I'm taking off just within the last year, really, honestly. So it doesn't matter how long it takes. It matters that you're doing it. And everyone's going to do it in their own way, because I've been doing it while I've been a mom. And this has always been a dream. I'm just a serial entrepreneur. I've always wanted to have my own company or companies. And I was raised by an entrepreneur. They were raised by entrepreneurs. So it's a part of what I feel like I'm supposed to do. And anything else I've done has felt out of alignment. So I'm like, okay, I'm not going to give up on this, because I know this is what I'm here to do. And whatever that business might be will vary, but I know that I'm supposed to create impact through something, like, through an actual organization. So timing wise, it's very much, we want what we want right now. And when we don't get the result right when we start, seeing traction right away, that's when a lot of people stop. But it's persevering through that, because if 90% of people are stopping and 10% of people are going forward, those are the 10% that are going to see success. Yeah, it's important.
I feel that. So I want to circle back to something we said in the beginning, where we talked about how a lot of people might think that, if I have this or I have that going on in my life, I can't add anything new or I can't try anything else. But I want to explore the idea with you a little bit around how being a multi-passionate and having the different facets of our life and the different channels can actually make us better. Like if you have a career and then you start a side business, or if you are a parent and then you're a stay-at-home parent, and then you start that venture you've been dreaming about for years, you might think it's too much. I don't have room on my plate, etc. But how can that actually make us better as those different facets of our lives actually grow together and lift each other up?
It's interesting, because I feel like the biggest thing is time management. When
Mhm.
you are, I love the saying that Beyonce also has 24 hours in the day, just like you and me.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a matter of, yeah, you're busy, right? But if you add something else, you really have to be, again, more intentional about your time and how you're spending it. I feel like a great analogy for me with this is having kids while having a successful career, because you want to be present with your kids, but you also want to crush your career, right? Like you want to do big things and grow.
Yeah.
So when you have kids, it's almost like you're not only getting leadership training, because you have to somehow figure out how to convince them to listen to you, but you also become a master at time management, because what you would get done originally in 4 hours, you have to work efficiently to get it done in an hour, 2 hours. And it's just the distractions are eliminated. And I feel like when you add something else, whether it's starting a side hustle, starting a business while you work, having kids while you work, it's a matter of, again, becoming more present in each piece. And it's like, instead of Netflix at night, you're sitting and working on your business, and it's just trading out those times and those
Yes.
activities, right? It really is, because you can do so much during the day. You can do so much during the day when you're not scrolling on Instagram for 30 minutes or even 10 minutes once an hour. I don't know. It's like those little
Yeah.
increments of time, they add up. So when you were intentional about when you're on your phone, what you're watching and when you're watching it, and you can shift that and put your attention towards something that is actually going to fill your cup, that's how you will be successful.
Absolutely. And, you know, one big project is writing a book, and that is something that you help some of your clients with. And so you're offering a book outline template as a free gift, which I personally am going to go grab a copy myself. So, because I'm writing a book today, so I want to, check that out, or not today, this year. I'm writing a book this year, and I want to look at that and see, how I've done with my outline. So how can we get access to that?
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll have a link in the description where you can go
Mm.
and you'll simply give your email and we'll send it to you. So this is the outline that we've used for our clients. We help clients ghostwrite and publish books and audiobooks. And this is where we start. So we jump on a discovery call with them, have a really casual conversation, just asking pointed questions. And we take that information about that person and their experience and put it into this book outline. And it has been the root of every book that we've done, and every book that we have done has hit international bestseller on Amazon. So it's very effective. I think it's very helpful in conceptualizing a book, right? Because if you think about start writing a book, it's a little bit daunting. How am I going to
Yeah.
get the ideas across in a way that resonate and keep people engaged? So this breaks down chapter by chapter, topic by topic, starts at 50,000 foot of who's your reader, what do they want? What are you going to talk about? And then digs into what do you want for a table of contents, and then breaks down each chapter of here's the best structure for you to tell your story, share your expertise, so on and so forth. And then you can fill it out right there and then and use that as a guide as you start writing.
That's amazing. Well, I am excited for that. So today you have shared so much wisdom. I don't even know where to begin. What's the first thing we should do? What's the number one thing that as soon as we're done listening to this, we should go do right away?
I would say go turn off all of your electronics, find a quiet place, and be still. And
Mm.
if you can be still and trust yourself in whatever it is you have on your plate today and whatever it is that you want to accomplish tomorrow, it will happen. You just need to become crystal clear by being still, taking the time to really reflect on why you want to do it and what you want to do. The how will become clear as you move, and then take action. And once you do that, you'll know what you're supposed to do, but you'll never know if you don't take action. So first, be still. And then two, take action and trust yourself.
Mm. Amazing. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your wisdom with us. This has been beyond incredible, really breaking down how to do more with less stress, right? Like it's so doable, and it's easier than we think. Our brains complicate it, but it's easier than we think. So thank you so much for showing us how to do that today and for being here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for braving the inside of your mind with me. The better we understand ourselves, the more deeply we understand the world. And as our awareness grows, life just gets better and better. If you've enjoyed this episode, please take a moment to leave a review and share this with anyone else you think could benefit from listening. A quick reminder that the content shared in this podcast is for informational purposes only. I am not a licensed therapist, and the discussions here are not a substitute for professional advice. If you're dealing with a specific issue or need personalized guidance, please consult with a qualified professional. Your well being is important, and this podcast is simply a platform for sharing insights and experiences. I appreciate you spending this time with me. Until next time.